Welcome to the Fantasy Take TV podcast. It is week 2 of the finals we're leading into. Week 1 of the finals, pretty mad pressure games all over. We're going to speak about that today. But what else is on the agenda? I will speak about our finals footy fantasy teams for this week, the results, and also next week. We picked up on a few Supercoach relevant players that have popped up for next year. So we'll touch on that. We'll also review the games and tips for next week. So it should be exciting. Boys, how are we?
Good, George.
Pretty good, thanks, Giordano.
That's
Just
good.
got back from, happy Father's Day, first of all, JD. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day.
And to mine and George's dad. But yeah, went to the movies and watched Bullet Train, and I advise no one to go and see that movie if you're going to the movies in the coming few weeks, because that was pretty bad.
Was this the Brad Pitt one?
Yeah, it's like action all over the place, but like a story that just they had put in too many twists and turns that there's just more like overkill. And when it's like an action movie, look, I'm not a movie specialist. I don't watch many at the best of times, but you got to like hit the comedy right at times. And the jokes they threw in there were just so bad. I don't even think I smiled once. So it's like 2 hours of nonstop action. They're on the train the whole movie, and it's like all these agents and whatever. And I was just drained by the end of it. I'm like, I can't believe I watched that, not really getting what was going on. And by the end of it, I was none the wiser. So yeah, I wouldn't go and watch that. But anyway,
that's got a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. That's actually like the hottest take we've had on the podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you go. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a movie buff, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask. But yeah, my word.
You've never walked out of a cinema before?
My dad was actually just talking about that. He's like, I was close to it. He reckons he's done it before, but no, I haven't. We're in the Lux, whatever it is at Hoyt, so had dinner and stuff in there.
Nice.
So that was my highlight of the movie. The footy though, pretty nuts, wasn't it, JD?
It's insane week of finals. I actually can't remember a week of finals that's been as good as the one that we just had in terms of qualities of games, like drama. Like they were all competitive, they were all close. It could have gone either way. And you had like a good mix of, I think, like high scoring kind of offensive games, which you saw with the Lions and the Tigers, but we also saw some really kind of contested high pressure games, like Cats Magpies sticks out to me as one of those. And then you obviously had the big comeback as well, which you just had everything. So it kind of didn't matter what your style of preferred footy was. There was something for everyone this weekend. It was just a really good weekend of football.
Yeah.
I disagree slightly. I thought the excitement and the pressure was good. I thought the skills were atrocious, especially the Geelong Collingwood game. That was terrible, terribly skilled game. Never seen so many fumbles.
That's because of the pressure.
No, there was a lot of uncontested fumbles. Maybe the crowd was a bit too loud for them, but I was not impressed. Sydney's flag to lose, I think. Not impressed with everyone else.
What?
But we'll get to that soon.
Okay.
Okay. We'll go to before we get into the games. We'll go over our finals footy fantasy teams for this week.
Okay.
Shout
I'll just get mine out of the way.
Organising that and go for it. Bring up your team on the screen.
Yeah, pretty disastrous. I know I said I'd change Baz to Bont, and I forgot to do that. So there's 60 points. I had Bailey Dale, who scored 60, Rich 50. So what did I score? 1,730 and about 2,000. So I'm pretty sure that's terrible because I can't imagine there's many more than 2,000 playing, but who knows? Forwards was pretty bad. Shea was pretty bad after half time. Mids were pretty decent, but yeah, Baz there with Brayshaw on the bench, not great. And yeah, those two defenders. Should have got the other Freo boys and someone else, but yeah, pretty terrible. But at least it's like a free hit. Get another free hit next week. See how we go.
It is hard just getting the 1 week because anything can happen in 1 week.
Yeah, pretty much. I knew like McCluggage would go well and Neil, although fantasy not as
good.
Was
a good pod.
Yeah, the boss should have gone some more dogs mids and then the forwards line. I don't know who else went well in the forwards. You boys, who was the best forward of the week? Probably like a 90.
Lob was pretty good.
I was actually gonna go Lob, and I didn't do it in the end. But
I think 80 is a really good score for the forward line.
Yeah, true.
Like Walters was the best forward, wasn't he?
Yeah,
98.
Yeah, true, because they're all guest natural forwards. He played pretty well.
Maybe McLean is a forward in this format.
Yes, McLean he turned up. Speak about him soon.
True. Oh, and McStay went 111. That was kind of hard to predict because he got moved into the rucks. Yeah.
I'll put your team up, George. There you go.
Yeah, I did okay. I made said weekly rank of 245. Scored well. I captained Neil. So I made 2 late changes. Kind of lucky, I guess. I had Angus Brayshaw, and I saw Libba was out, so go back to the well. Brought in Jack McRae. I hope we own him again next year, but we'll see how he goes. And then got rid of Ed Richards because I had to get rid of a dog. Put in Tom Stewart, who played okay. Tough matchup against Bo McCreary. Takes those sort of forwards, but yeah, I think it was quite hard to stuff up the midfield. I know if you like a Baz or Angus Brayshaw, that's pretty bad because Mills 120, Brayshaw I think went 120, McLuggage 120, Dogs and Oliver did really well. So that went well. Defense just Daniel Rich really bad. Thought I had Vlosten, but apparently not. And then the forward line was pretty tough to nail. So the forward line was the one where you could get 30 points plus 40 points. As you can see, Shea Bolton 30 just sank the week, sank right there on the first game. And then I went Hawkins over Jezza because Jezza I thought potentially underdone from the injury from the hammy, but not. He was probably best on ground. So yeah, that's how the team went. But yeah, I think you need top 3 to win, so you can't really make a mistake in this format. But yeah, a bit of fun. JD, good yours.
Yeah, so I think I scored 7 less than you, George, which put me about 70 points behind. Defense are pretty much nailed. The only ones I think really scored significantly better was Noble with a 109, who I was realistically never going to pick. And then Chapman, who was a consideration, but because I wanted to run Brayshaw in the mids, just didn't end up picking him. The midfield itself, pretty much nailed everything, but it was hard not to. I think not having Bont was probably the only blemish. And were you ever really going to drop someone like Neil not getting tagged? Just not really. So it would have been like a 20-point win over like a Brayshaw or a Mills, but I was originally going to have McCluggage in defense, who scored a 120, but only moved Dunkley in on the back of the Libba news, so that was a 13-point game, which is nice. And the forwards is where and I captained Oliver, so I did it right there. But the forwards is where it fell apart for me. Bailey, I got, which is good, but yeah, Bolton, Jackson, Hawkins, like all sub 60s. Stengel, who was a little bit of, I guess, a pod, like this is okay, but I mean, what you had.
Goulden, I think.
Goulden, who I did have at some point, yeah. Jez Cameron, who was like high 70s as well. So, this is just bad. I mean, Bolton's the really bad one. An extra 40 points there, and it's a really competitive score. But close to no cigar.
Got 70, didn't he?
He got high 70s as well. Who was also somewhat popular. So, yeah. This team was close, but the forward line let me down for sure.
Yep. So to touch on next week, so it's not open yet for next week. Will be soon, I guess. But is it
6
how many
from
plays
each team you get now?
6 from each team. Okay. So I think probably load up on the Fremantle mids against the Pies. We know they leak there. Melbourne and Brisbane, you expect both mids to do pretty well there. They seem to leak a bit of points. I think both teams.
Harms got off right, but they didn't go to Neil last time, did they?
Brayshaw sat on him.
Yeah, so anyway, see what happens there.
So do you go Neil? I think watching Neil, it's just you can see why he's tagged literally every week.
There's enough pods, and fantasy's not his thing, is it? Real? I mean, I guess I'm going off one game, but he handballed a lot and didn't mark the ball once, I don't think. So
yeah, Neil was.
You don't get extra points for clearances, contested ball, do you? So is he worth it?
Yeah, so Neil was like top 8 for fantasy this year, I'm pretty sure, for the mids. But the difference is just like there wasn't very much uncontested stuff. So we saw what made him good at Supercoach in that first finals game, but you didn't see any of his really like the fantasy game because it's just a lot of like contested in and under high Supercoach points, but not much uncontested kick mark play, which is, where you can really get those, like rack up the points and kind of junk it a bit. And also tackles, right? That's what Dunkley did this week, just mass tackles.
Yep. No Ruckman, or they'll play probably Darcy Fort. So
Pick
Gawn
Gawn.
probably, you got to pick Gawn, I guess. So
Mhm.
yeah, it'll be interesting. So yeah, that'll open soon. Anything else to add on that?
So just quickly then, who are you going to pick forwards from this week? Because I think it probably makes sense to stack it towards teams that are going to get wins. Maybe, I don't know. Like the forwards is what was make or break this week. Where are you going to put your picks?
I think Bailey's a lock.
Try and predict the bag.
For
Yeah.
me.
I'll speak about Bailey, but he was unbelievable.
I don't have a lot of confidence in many.
Rory Lobb.
Yeah, if you get
Just
a bit
go
of
him
rock,
again.
you get the hit outs. Yeah, not too sure. Maybe there might be like I know Dusty's out, isn't he? He probably would have got forward status. I think, yeah, a lot of the Melbourne forwards were just atrocious. So it's like it's hard to trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly,
what about like a Fritsch or someone like that?
How'd he go?
Fritsch actually did
86.
okay. He scored 86. Yeah,
He kicked 3 goals. So, and I think he got a lot of the same criticism he always gets, right? Which is like pretty selfish play.
Yeah. I still think he still probably need him to score because they like struggling for opportunities up there. I think Ben Brown probably gets dropped.
Maybe
Might be
like a
close to
Schultz. He scored 69 without a goal. That's actually not bad.
If Tom McDonald's coming back, like that's
Apparently
an interesting pick.
Pretty underdone. I doubt it. Is
Yeah.
what
Who, Tom
they're
McDonald?
saying.
He's been in the VFL for 2 weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, someone was
I
saying
mean, I guess
he's
if
been
you've been out
atrocious.
for most of the year, though, I thought he was good the first week back. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering stuff.
I don't know. Apparently, still like can't move well or move, but they might be desperate enough to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I do like Walters, big game player, and
Wouldn't
Ash
have
Johnson. He scored 60, but I thought he was good.
Wouldn't have a look at your boy Fort.
He'll be rock.
Yeah, they don't do it in here. They don't give him that.
Yeah. So I think we can move on to some fantasy relevant players that we picked up on. So the first one is Toby McLean scored 100. Now he got 0 CBAs, and there was no liver, but he's priced at low 200s, like 220, 230.
Yeah, whatever they end up on.
2 ACLs. So he was pushing up to stoppage a fair bit. He was hanging around the ball, but no CBA. So a high half forward role. Bevo did mention to replace Libbo that they could use McLean, could go in there, but yeah, 0 CBAs. I think I'll lock him in for next year at that price, but we'll see what other options there are. But yeah, back in the day was a 110 scorer.
Sort of mid.
First half of 2018 before he hurt himself. So
yep.
Yeah, I think he'll be in my starting team. Can you guys see him in your starting teams? Long way to go, but yeah.
I've added him to the spreadsheet. It actually, I mean, early days forward seems like it'll be tricky because we're going to have lots of options next year. So there's already some cheaper primos that, I like the look of in Butters, Dillmore, Rosie, possibly Taranto, depending on where he ends up. And then you've got a lot of cheaper players coming off injury. So like Fife, Allen, Fantasia, King, Bruce, and then McLean can kind of add it into the list as well. So he's like one in the mix, but I'm like, there's lots of other options there as well. It kind of just depends on preseason and role and all that. But the fact he's up and playing now and playing well in finals is a good sign and probably an advantage to him over some of the others on that list.
I assume he's been playing mid in the VFL, but he's averaging about 100 or so in that the past few weeks. Another one from the Dogs game. So McRae was really good. Back to old McRae. Week off, but no liver. So his role's been kind of stuffed around with, I guess we'll see in the preseason, but that was kind of encouraging. Like, I'm not going to put a line through him just yet, but harder to trust now. And I don't know, maybe with a long-term injury to any of the other mids that they have, and maybe we look at him next year. Say Libba was out for on the first 10 weeks or something, just hypothetical. Would you look at starting McRae?
I always said I was 100% because I believe Dunkley's going. Not that I know Jack, but it kind of seems that way. And
I am.
I know you hate that, but
not Port anyway.
Especially if it goes to Port, yeah.
No, don't do
but Libba's
that.
like what? Libba's 30 now, so I know he's been awesome the last 2 years. But
yeah,
McRae, yeah, I just think he's so solid. He's got to go back in there, you'd think. But it is Bevo, although Is it Bevo? Who knows? It's talking might actually get the arse, but who knows?
Oh, and then he ends up coaching Essendon in the mediocrity.
I honestly think they should.
There's still
they
more
need
to
a new
play out
coach.
till we can make a call
I
on
don't
McRae,
know.
really, isn't there?
Yeah, we'll worry about that when
I'd
it
love
comes.
to. It'd be cheapest he'd been in, 4 years?
Yeah, I think also Clayton Oliver looked unreal. Probably going to get tagged every week, but
He's win that Brownlow, hopefully.
He's nuts.
I think he's
nuts. He's so good.
He's crazy.
Played for a broken hand this year as well for a few weeks. So I had a down-ish game, first one back.
No,
so
not
maybe
on track.
I mean,
Track was injured, but
he got gifted goals in this as well. But yeah, I mean, he's still cracked.
Yeah,
crazy that anyone ever said track was better, isn't it?
Well, speaking of Petrarca, so just as a note, I guess no one will start him next year, but last 5 weeks of the season, CBA's dropped to 50% with Gus going back in there. So that tells me there's a reasonable chance he'll be a forward. I think there's not really much else to discuss, but yeah, he's currently got a hairline fracture, so good luck to him for the finals. Do they rest him? They still think he's going to play. I don't know.
I mean, for finals footy relevance, that does bring Angus Brayshaw, I'd take into considerations maybe next week if Petrarca's going to be out.
Well, did he?
No, he didn't. But it felt like he was kind of doing the defensive stuff. And so if they put him to kneel this week, is that good or bad, that role? Like being defensive kind of stopper on kneel without hard tagging.
Yeah.
Worth noting that this, so Gus Brayshaw, 540K next year in defense. I do worry that they can throw him around. And we saw him have a bad game, although it was against the Swans. Probably not much tougher matchup right now than them. So it does put a bit of doubt in your mind. They can always throw him around, but you'll see.
I mean, finals footy is different though, right? Like just the effort and the game styles. It feels like we saw a lot less uncontested stuff in some of these games, and that's where Angus Brayshaw would have thrived. Like the cheap kind of kick marks around the back. That's where he did really well this year. And even Brody, for example, who's been a darling all year, still did a lot of the contested stuff, but he got none of the cheap outside stuff he was getting through the year, or at least a lot less of it. So it's just interesting. This is why it's a little bit hard to extrapolate from finals sometimes, because just some players that get their scoring from weird ways, it just doesn't always reflect, I find, just because of the game styles. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. That's just kind of how I feel watching some of these games.
Could be.
Yeah. Outside-ish players will generally find it harder in finals, but yeah, I agree. And then the last one we got here, it sounds like Taranto's all but locked to go to the Tigers.
Roughly
sub
said
500,
7-year, 750K deal. So yeah.
Anna, how do you feel about the size of that contract?
I'm kind of don't care anymore these days to pull a player out of a club. I know he's probably capped really to what he can be. We already know what Toronto is, and it is what he is. But we can probably move on to the game, the Brisbane Tigers game, I guess. And we just need more midfielders. I mean, we've never really had a deep midfield, but as soon as Prestia went down, I was pretty much conceding we'd lose. We hung in there, I guess. It's just just a ridiculous game. Everyone was nailing goals from everywhere. And that was probably, even though when I was watching them all go through in the last quarter, I was like, neither of these teams are really going to be much of a threat, I wouldn't have thought, going forward. Just because you can't play like this and win 4 games in a row and win the flag. But it was pretty insane to watch. But
I mean, it was midfield perspective, right, is interesting, right? Because you had Dusty, who's still obviously not back well.
He barely played, forward. Really. Yeah.
Bolton got well held, and I think he just plays worse with Martin in the side because they both kind of play that unique role, having both on the side. So it doesn't seem to work that well. You had Prestia that went down, and then you had Cochin tagged. It kind of felt like Nankervis having that strong ruck advantage was what helped even the
He was our best midfielder.
Yeah, it helped. He had 18 contested possessions or something, and I don't know, nearly 10 clearances. But outside of that, you guys got smacked up around the ball, so you can really see the need for Taranto to join that midfield.
I get money's probably not the bad one. It's 7 years. I think he's my age or a year younger, so he's 20. That's well into his 30s that he'll be
real age leaked. Oh no, there's no way you're that young. You're 24. Get off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, He's almost 25, wouldn't he be?
Oh, I was almost.
He's from He's from our area,
Okay.
JD.
Is he?
A Sandy. He plays Sandy Sabres basketball. He's from Southeast. Another
I'll
league.
share,
Yep.
I'll share. I'll share another fact about him later, which would actually like leak something like proper personal, but interesting nonetheless.
But as a pick, I guess George is what we want to talk about. 500k. I think it's a good pick in a vacuum, like himself, but it's more to what the other options are. The forwards. It feels like there might be just a few better ones that have more upside. And like, what's Taranto's upside? 105. Maybe it's more because he'll be full time mid at the Tigers. So
he started off really hot at the start of the year, and his mid time wasn't super high either. He was still around the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then like he dropped off a bit. Was that back issues? And he was out for a few weeks. Then he came back in, probably checked out. We've seen him check out before in the COVID year.
Big time.
That was a massive,
Oh yeah.
So was it that case again? Sub 500. When he was 450 in the midfield, he rose up to 550k and stayed there for a bit before coming down again. So sub 500, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, I think. New club. Do you think the Tigers' game style hurts Taranto?
Maybe because we just don't possess the footy, but
he does take those uncontested marks.
Yeah, and he can go forward and kick a goal. He's obviously learnt that craft pretty well, which is strange because he's not the greatest kick in the midfield. But I don't know. He's probably, to me, feels like he's almost the same player as Prestia, but maybe just a little bit. Like fully fit Prestia is pretty good, but he just never really can hold on to that fitness. So he seems like a pretty similar player to Prestia. So, and Prestia does what, like 100 in our team, something like that. Maybe just a little bit under. So
I'm guessing Toronto's a bit taller.
Yeah, true.
So I think that's the fantasy or Supercoach aspect of the week, and we're sort of tied into Brisbane versus Tigers. Anything else to add on that game?
Look, we shot ourselves in the foot all year, and that definitely just summed up the year. Watching like three blokes spoil the footy and let Joey kick that goal, I was like, yeah. And you see Bolter on the floor. I'm like, you guys have done this all year to me. Watch Gold Coast North games back to back. There's so many mistakes, and we've made them all year. And I think we're 0-6 in games under a goal. So the Collingwood yin and yang we've been, and that pretty much just summed it up.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't know if you've seen the split that someone had on Twitter of that versus the Grundy goal, and it's like the exact same. It's exactly the same.
So bad.
It's wild.
Like Dimmer would have lost so many years off his life this year watching this team. Like we should have really finished top 4, and obviously didn't deserve to, rightly so. But being in every game for about 3 months, losing, our biggest loss has been 1 goal, and that was since the Sydney game or whatever that was, which is like round 10. So could have easily been top 4, but shot ourselves in the foot.
It feels like one of those years for the Tigers where if everything went right and you didn't have injuries and Dusty kind of hit form, like you could have legitimately been in the grand finals at some point, just given the experience of the team and the age profile and stuff. And just not.
We don't think anyone sticks out that far. Like we thought Geelong did. I thought they were pretty poor. We'll get to that obviously, but there's an upside there, and we think probably Sydney's a favourite now. We could have easily gone deeper if everything went right and finished top 4, but didn't deserve to in the end.
On the Brisbane side, I think McCluggage was really good early. Neil was kind of good and anchored that team, it felt like, for most of the game. McStay did a really good job, as we kind of mentioned, swapping into the ruck.
He was awesome.
Bailey was good, brought that X factor. I thought Zorko, as much as we are not a massive fan, actually bounced back pretty well and kind of stuck to leading on field rather than leading in other ways, which was good. And then we saw probably the best of Danaher and Hipwood. I mean, the big knock on Brisbane has been that forward line and how it's going to glue together. But I mean, maybe this is just not having McStay in there and just having Danaher and Hipwood as the pillars. Maybe it was because no Grimes and the Tigers kind of backlines underdone a little bit. But it was by far the best we saw of that forward line this year. So I guess lots of praise. And Wilmot, by the way, talking of fantasy Supercoach players, like he looks good as a rookie, possibly one for next year. Only other question I wanted to ask was we saw this high kind of scoring game between Lions and Tigers last time they played, right? What is it about these two teams that you think leads to that? Because it's just unique.
Yeah,
it doesn't really happen, and like especially it's like same teams back to back. Usually one team changes something, so it's not as offensive. And yeah, what's your read on what was unique about this matchup that kind of leads to that?
well, we both probably have the most potent forward lines in the comp. You'd say maybe Geelong's is probably up there as well, and just no defense. Like as you said, Grimes is out for us. Brisbane haven't been able to defend all year. I think pretty much like. I thought Starcevic came in, played quite well, but I don't know. Harris Andrews pretty. I don't know. I don't know what to think of him sometimes. I feel like he's really awesome sometimes and really bad in others. But it's really good ball movement teams, strong, potent forward lines, and no defense. I think it's just like the same team, and that's what the result was.
I think the work rate of the players through the middle of the ground, like on turnover, they just work really hard and they get over the ball. We see like with Shea and Charlie Cameron, that's what happens with that. But yeah, just observation. But I think we'll move on to Melbourne versus Sydney. First half, this was a great game. Second half, Melbourne kind of fell into their old habits, I guess, of the second half of the year where they just couldn't score. Forwards they just couldn't get any marks inside 50. Brown was like fumbling twice as bad as he usually does. And yeah, the midfield, like Clary was still good. Petrarca struggled really hard. What do you get that rundown tackle on Franklin?
Buddy.
I think.
Buddy. That's where he did the fracture.
Played on, yeah. So yeah, it's like a really smart play from him, and then he got rewarded with a fractured whatever hairline fracture in his leg or something. So I think the main takeaway is I think Sydney. I mean, Sydney were my flag tip, and I think they still are. I think they've been the best record against the top 6 teams, and we saw Heaney, Franklin did nothing. In fairness to Heaney copped a pretty bad knock in the head.
Hey, he landed 9 tackles, and I think 5 were inside 50, so he did other things, but yeah, wasn't too much up forward.
And Logan McDonald as well was pretty average.
He didn't play.
So a bit of upside there. Papley was outstanding. Rowbottom was really good through the midfield, but you just see Sydney's pressure and ball movement, and your man Jake Lloyd I thought was outstanding.
He was.
So we saw kind of like even like in the Dogs game, we saw them go back to giving it to Caleb Daniel and Lloyd, the more senior guy there. Blakey didn't do a whole much. They kind of reverted back to Lloyd, but Lloyd just played a good game and kicked 2 goals somehow, which I don't think is ever going to be repeated. You could play for 1,000 games, that'll never happen.
Was one or both or 50s?
No, one was like just spilled to him. He kicked it from an
angle. The 50.
Yeah. And to be fair, that was defending too great, but he did it right forward.
I think that was the big thing about Melbourne's game, which I observed, is like the 50s killed them. And the reason why isn't just because like all 3 of them resulted in goals, but it was every time Melbourne seemed to get a bit of momentum and it was finally their turn to kind of get on top of play a little bit, they conceded one of these 50s into a goal and it just reset. So like they just couldn't build that momentum that would kind of lead them to a comeback or to like that level footing. And I thought that was by far the biggest difference. I mean, Oliver, Gawn, May. I thought like a lot of those Melbourne stars tried to stand up, but to your points around their forward line, still a basket case, which is totally true. And then I think the 50s and the undisciplined play wasn't great. I mean, and then Swans were obviously good. Like full credit to the boys, full credit. But yeah, I thought like Swans were obviously really good. But that's kind of where the differences in that game came down to for me.
Your man, Dylan Stevens.
Dylan Stevens. Oh, I'm still so upset about
good
this.
Was he?
Since he's been back the second half of the year, he's been
really good.
And I knew he was this good, and then, like they just didn't bring him back early enough. I mean, maybe if they brought him back earlier, he wouldn't have been this good. But I mean, he had like he's had like 80s. He had like 118 and 83 or something like that back to back. He would have made bulk cash. Still upset about that one. Oh, killer. But yeah, he's been really good. And like the celebration when he kicked that goal was sick.
Yeah, that was a great goal. Hickey was all pretty good as well. Like I know Gawn was good, but a lot of good ruck matchups, I guess. Like McStay did all right against Nank, Gawn and Hickey. Others will come to, but yeah.
For this game, I think one of the biggest takeouts is I'm like worried about Melbourne. I think what was their record post by? It was like negatives, I think.
4 and 6 or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, just worried about him. I think the first half showed that they're definitely capable. And now Petrarca injured. Like, I've just lost a bit of confidence in them. But yeah, maybe could have saw it coming given their form in the back half of the year. They had that massive game against Brisbane where they just demolished them. So maybe we just thought, oh, they had a bit of a lull. They're back. And then they've kind of reverted back to this.
Yeah.
But it was Sydney, so we'll see how they go.
Yep, can still get into the prelim.
JD, some news from Manscaped, something new.
Yes, excellent, gentlemen. All men strive for gold in their life, right? Gold medals, gold watches, gold everything. However, there is a certain type of man who goes the extra mile. He walks with the confidence of an eagle and giggles in the face of danger. He's a big, hairless winning machine, and when he unzips his pants, he sees platinum. That's right, Manscaped would like to announce that their biggest and best ultimate hygiene bundle, the Platinum Package 4.0, is now available in Australia. Manscaped is a leader of below-the-waist grooming. Now, trust them with the whole shebang. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code FTTV. So this new package, it literally does have everything. So you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which we've talked about a lot, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Ultra Premium Body Wash, the Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo plus Conditioner, Deodorant, Crop Preserver, Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Ball Spray Toner, Anti-Chafing Boxes, and the Shed Travel Bag. It literally has everything. And if you're looking to up your hygiene game, then Manscaped is the place to go. That's code FTTV at manscaped.com.
Outstanding. Moving on to Geelong versus the Pies. So this game...
You didn't
No, I didn't enjoy this game. It was horrible skill level. I'll throw you guys first. Or Anna, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, so I caught most of this game. Watched it with a few of my mates, supporters from both teams, and it was just really funny to watch. Like, a lot of things happened that I just didn't expect. Like, fair credit to the Pies, they did show up and put on a hell of a lot of pressure. I thought Geelong played pretty poorly for the most part. Jeremy Cameron, in my opinion, is like the best player in the league. The things he was doing.
All right, David King.
No, I don't care who says it. He seriously is. Like, maybe Clary, you've got an argument, but
it's Clary. It's so Clary at the moment.
Is so it though? Good. Like midfield? No, yeah, I know.
Clary's
but
so
like
good.
Jeremy Cameron, there's no one like him. Seriously, he was lacing people out like it was no one's business. And Gary Rowan, I cannot believe the game Gary Rowan had. I'm sorry. He has been the worst finals performer in the last 10 years, and he pulls that out in a qualifying final. I think he averages like 4 touches and no goals in his finals for his career, and he does that game. I just could not believe it.
I think the cherry on the top was that final kick into the 50. I think Holmes kicked the goal, and he just dropped an uncontested mark. I'm like, he's still trying to do it.
He mopped it up.
My boss was messaging me saying, like, Wayne Carey effort from Rowan. I sent him back. The only thing that Rowan and Carey have in common is their extramarital activities. Don't disrespect Carey, all right? But yeah, I mean,
he showed up. Your man, JD.
He could not have done this once all year in Supercoach, especially though I owned him, and he actually played a good game. Like, terrible.
He's unreal.
George, this kind of like goes back into your theme of like some of the big dogs standing up in the Swans game, you know, like, and even the Dogs as well, right? Like moving away from some of the youth and putting it back on the senior players. Like Pendles, I thought, was another example of that, who did a really good job on the Pie side and really led. I thought Selwood probably had one of his better games. He wasn't dominant, but he was solid. But then I think the big story from the Cat side was Tommy Atkins had a fourth quarter for the ages, just absolutely tore it up. We saw him do this, like, I think in the last month as well, but he was really clutch. And, you know, Adams going down in the third is a bit like Prestia. I think both those teams kind of rely on one inside midfielder to really carry that role. Both lost. They're both injury prone. We've talked about Adams and Prestia being so similar in so many ways. And we absolutely mirrored, like Adams went down. And I think it was probably the difference for the Pies in that last quarter as well.
Yep.
What did you think about Crisp, George?
He was good.
He started well.
It was one of the better games he played. Like, still 7 clangers and whatnot, but he's what they needed. Like, I mean, you probably look there. He's got 7 clangers every game, but he actually did really well. Like, he's what
the goal he kicked was nice too.
Yeah, that was good candy.
Yeah. 10 contested, which was nice. I think that was, like, you know, double-digit contested. There was only a handful that did that. So
He's so required in there because they don't have much else. That it'd be good to get him, I think, back to half back or even like a wing. Like I don't know what Hoskin Elliott's doing in this team. They surely have someone else, but they clearly don't. He just isn't like up to it in my opinion anymore. But George, what do you think with the Cat? I think there's still upside with the Cats. They played pretty poorly. Like Collingwood pressured them and they just didn't look good, but they got the job done in the end.
If I had to reseed, I think I had Geelong at the 4th seed, and honestly, they played like a 4th seed, to be honest.
They played pretty bad, but that's the thing. There's upside if they can get it together.
Yeah, I think Collingwood's midfield was okay. Degai was a big body through there. I think Pendlebury had 34. He was good. Adams was good until he went down. I think probably ran out of legs. And, in the last quarter, they were just bombing it in the forward 50. I think they got one over the back at the end. But, like Jezza and Rowan, I think like their second key defender is Jeremy Howe.
And the third was what Murphy on Rowan.
So it's not. It should not have happened. It was like Geelong should have lost this, but I guess that's
like
the
Tomahawk
prize.
did nothing.
The prize for finishing first is you play 4th, and they played 4th. So, I just thought
Magpies,
the first half
historically probably one of the luckier 4ths to exist. I mean, like that's definitely up for debate, but like lowest percentage 4th ever probably.
Yeah. So I think, good teams find a way to win. And look, Geelong, they've had an outstanding year. I think you can still get them through the midfield, and I think they will. It'll be when they probably play the winner of Melbourne and Brisbane. And like I've lost confidence in Melbourne, but I don't think they have any chance against Sydney. So you can clip me on that if you want. But look, I think Jezza. Look, I don't scoff. Like if you say Jezza's the best player in the league, like I'm not going to argue too hard against that. The kicks inside 50, the marking, just his athleticism is unbelievable. So he was like without Jezza, they lose that.
Yep.
So if he fires and Hawkins fires and they all fire, they've got a chance. They got the weapons, but we'll see what happens because they played well below their level, and that's basically what the Cats have been for finals. So. But maybe this game was, I think, important to get out of the way for them. So, they get a week
13
off.
in a row, didn't play much chop, so probably that played into it. The week off, they just they hadn't played anyone that good probably in a long time.
Yeah, I got a few thoughts here. So I was impressed by so much of Collingwood. I think both Dacos brothers were really good. I think they had down moments, but really promising signs there. Lipinski had one of his probably better games for the Pies as well. It did lots of really impactful stuff. I think they can hang their heads high. But honestly, I think the reason why this game was close is the Pies' pressure through the midfield. I mean, all over the ground, but through the midfield was nuts. And the Cats' strong suit by far is their forwards. And if you're not going to be able to match up on all of their forwards, which is kind of hard to do, right? You got Cameron, Rowan, Hawkins. There's just so much talent through that forward line. You got to put the pressure on through the midfield to prevent the inside 50s being as good. And I think that's what we saw a lot of, which really helped level the game. The only other team that I can see bringing that same level of pressure through the midfield is the Swans. So I think the Swans will be Cat kryptonite. But I don't think any of the other teams bring that same level of pressure that would disrupt Geelong like we saw from the Pies this game. So I actually think the Cats will be okay from here. And the other thing that really impressed me is I thought the pressure was good enough through the first quarter and a bit for the Pies that it would break a lot of teams. I legitimately thought they looked like a top 4 team the way they played with the pressure. Maybe the skills weren't always the best, but bring that level of pressure for that long, through sustained periods, is really hard to do. I was really impressed by the Pies. I think the Cats will be okay though. I just don't think any other team can pressure like that apart from the Swans.
An interesting tactic that they did is Selwood and Danger started on the bench every quarter for the first, 5, 6, 7 minutes.
It's crazy. One of the quarters.
So I don't know, there might be some method to that madness, but I think they definitely risked getting jumped, and Collingwood misfired early. They could have easily had a 3, 4, 5 goal lead early. Yep. So, I don't know about that tactic, but I guess they won, so it is what it is.
The other tactic though in the third quarter was they swapped Tui and Duncan, right? So Tui started forward, Duncan in defense. They swapped that around, and that seemed to work well in the second half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Moving on to the final game of the week, Fremantle versus the Doggies. A very strange game how this panned out. Freo did not start well early. It was the Marcus Bontempelli show the first half. And I think you probably missed a bit of this game.
I saw the start and then just stopped watching. I was with some mates and I saw the scores and I was like, what the hell's going on here? What was it, 42-1, something like that?
So, yeah, it was a 41-point lead. And I think, Fremantle settled. The crowd was going nuts. Like, I don't know.
Once the comeback was
insane.
Yeah.
Well, what I noticed from this game is the ball movement of the Dogs was it was really painful to watch. So I don't know if this is like Bevo's fault or, the Dogs were able to still win clearances. Like, you look at clearance numbers, same old Dogs, contested ball, tackles, clearances, all to the Dogs. Sarong was really good for Freo, but every time they got the ball, they'd want to win the ball at stoppage. They'd hack it forward, and there was just no method to their movement. It was just hack it forward, land in the lap of Ryan, Clark, and Hayden Young, and then they'd rebound back. And when Freo were able to lock it in the inside 50, like we saw early in the year, Freo were one of the known for being the best defensive teams because of their zone forward of the ball or defending the ball. So yeah, they just held their width really well, and the Dogs couldn't get a look at the score. They didn't look like scoring for 2.5 quarters, and that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, it was not a great game for Doggies, for the Dog supporters, but definitely for an encouraging performance. And yeah, they choked them to death basically. What do you reckon, Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, the comeback was insane. I did not think it was going to happen. Once kind of Dogs get on a run like that, you just assume they'll carry on. And Freo looked so shell-shocked. The crowd was completely out of it. So for them to fight back was nuts. Walters wound back the clock big time in this game. I think that was a real big turning point was what he was able to do. And he very much led, felt like that team at times. I was really impressed by Jai Miss for being his second game. Not only the number of opportunities he got, but his composure at certain parts in the game, especially when a lot of their forward line wasn't clicking early, he was still taking marks and presenting well. So I think sneaky underrated. And then the other one I probably wanted to call out was Sarong. A lot of people, I think a lot of people would have had him as best on ground or thereabouts for this one. Although maybe Bond, maybe had Bond ahead of him. But Sarong kind of, I don't know, he feels like he's going to be a very underrated player across his career. He was, when Chera was there, he was kind of talked about as the third person, even though I thought he was better than Chera. And obviously Brayshaw's got a lot of accolades this year, and Sarong's kind of been forgotten and still seen as this rising up and comer. But he's had many, many solid games where he's been a very strong leader, and you can kind of see it on fields as well. So yeah, I just wanted to give big shout outs to Sarong. I thought he was very good and is now sneaky underrated. Oh, and special mention to Will Brodie, who proved how fraudulent he was when real game was on the line. Anyway,
dude,
well, we have to talk.
Again?
Probably going to. Generally, inside mids don't score super well against the Dogs, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, unlike what Sarong and Brayshaw. Yeah,
Brayshaw got his 6 contested. He got his halfback stuff again. He was good, but standard Brayshaw game. So yeah, moving on. Also, Sarong, I probably won't pick him for Supercoach, but I think he'll get there one day, and when he does, he'll be in our sides most likely.
He could be a sneaky fantasy option next year. He did not have a game below 20 touches this year, which is pretty interesting.
Give me Hayden Young. I deserve a 110, just average from him.
Yeah. You and me both, and I'm all on the Hayden train.
Too much a game, but it looked like he played pretty well. So
he did. Especially later, I thought when the game was on the line. Very good.
But those probably played into it. didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's like classic though, right? So when Freo was able to control the game a bit more, Ryan and Young just racked it up because Dogs just don't pressure defense. Which I don't know. I wonder if they revisit that as a tactic over
I
season.
think they have to.
It's just not working for them.
No.
We're relying on Sam Darcy in his third game. And
English isn't working in the ruck. Lob was killing him. I don't know. They got some stuff to figure out. They're probably going to back themselves in and then finish 7th again.
Funnily enough, they probably end up with Lob, don't they?
Oh, how tall can they go though? I don't know how they fit him in. Darcy, Jamara, English, Norton.
He'd be their best forward.
Bruce will never play again if he comes.
Well, they might put Darcy back into defense again. Plus, like playing Darcy and Ugelhagen every week at the moment is not working out. They're just they're too young and too skinny.
Yes. So move on to this week's games: Melbourne versus Brisbane and Pies versus Freo. Who are you boys tipping for this one?
Oh wait, do you want to reflect on how we did last week first?
Sure.
George, do you want to start?
0 from 4. But I did tip Sydney for the flag.
Okay. Well, I would have been bad too. I think I tipped Freo though. No, 2 I would have got. Did you tip the Pies? Okay. I would have got 2.
I think I tipped Melbourne. I can't remember.
I did as well. And I tipped Tigers, obviously. So I got the other 2.
Yep. Exactly the same as me. I know. I tipped Geelong for the flag. So still in for that.
I tipped the D's. But I'm still confident. I mean, Brizzy got to come to Melbourne, mate. I know we've had lost confidence in the D's, but Melbourne just whooped them up there, and now they come to the G. I think the D's would probably look good against Brisbane like they did 3 weeks ago and probably win that game. So, look, it'd be great if Brisbane got up, to be honest, because it'd be something new. They bloody enjoyed that win. You could see after the game, which is actually good to see. Besides me being on the wrong end of it, like Fagan looked like he's just lost the biggest weight off his shoulders of all time after that. So who knows? They could cause an upset, but I'll go with the D's.
Yeah, this is a smash D's lock for me.
Yeah, their forward woes probably be looking good again against that Brisbane defense, even though they're probably masking over that they still need help there, but the Brisbane defense will probably help them out.
Mm-hmm.
They won by 10 goals last time, Melbourne, at the Gabba.
Yeah. Because he kicked 4 in the first half.
I think it's one of those games where they need to get Gawn probably more up forward, clunking marks, which is always risky because of his set shot kicking, but Jackson didn't do a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Melbourne should be fine, though.
So I will tip for this game. I've got to tip Melbourne.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go
No.
a bit rogue. MCG factor as well. I know it gets beaten to death, but until they do it, how can you confidently tip them?
Just be a hater.
Happy to see him do it, but
didn't work for me. Pies versus Fremantle. No Tay Adams.
Good game.
Definitely no 5. He's been a non-entity anyway this year.
Yeah.
Actually, saying a Pies game would be a good game. It's not a hot take, is it? I've had 12 of them in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it will be. I think Freo we get a lot of confidence from that win. Not that I watched them play in the second half, really, but I was impressed with the Pies, though, and I really do love Craig McRae. He will be doing all the right things during the week to get them up and bounce them off the canvas after that loss. They look pretty, upset, disheartened with it, as he should be, obviously. But these comments I loved post game, saying he's like, "We're not losers. We lost the game, but we're not losers. Got to act like winners." He said he saw half his players on the ground like they'd lost to granny. He said, "Get up, come on. Season's not over." And I did like that. I think he's a great coach. So,
yeah. I was going to ask what your take on this was. Because a lot of people didn't seem to like it, or saw it labeled as weird or odd outburst or something like that. But I don't know. It just felt like it was more of insight into who McRae is and his attitude and the mindset he's brought to the team.
Yeah.
Which you're gonna have moments where they fall back and lapse, and that's coaching moments, right? So I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Thought it was a good take from him. You haven't really seen that sort of stuff from him, but shows that, he's dead serious coach. He's a winner, you can tell.
And he wants to instill confidence in his players and stuff. Like, I think he knows how to tap into that sort of stuff.
He doesn't take no shit, that's for sure. No. So for this game, now early in the year, Pies got him pretty good.
They beat him up there, right? Or over there?
I think it was in Perth by 6
But it was
goals.
raining. The old Freo raining dilemma.
Yes.
Which I think it might be, or is at least a chance to be.
That's what they said.
In that
week.
case, I smashed the Pies. I would say they'd probably win, but yeah.
Pies, MCG. I think the Pies will bounce back.
Big crowd.
Freo probably will settle in a bit quicker. Although I think it was probably more the Dogs, a bit more experience. They've jumped teams before, but I think Freo, they can definitely get on top in the midfield. I think the tools up forward for Freo are probably unreliable. I think Amiss was really good. It presented really well, kick straight. So,
but I think you're
right. I don't think they're potent enough to really punish the Pies like Jezza and Roland did. So I'll go with the Pies for this one.
Yeah, like bang on. George is going to say exactly the same thing. The Freo just doesn't have the forward stocks. They relied a lot on like youth kind of stepping up in that game, which I just don't think is going to hold up when you have a higher pressure side like the Pies kind of come to the game. So assuming the Pies can jump up and bounce back, and just given what we've seen from the last couple of months, you'd assume they can, right? Like there's something they're doing right that's making this happen. I think the bottom end of the Dockers list is just still a little bit too young and too inexperienced to handle what the Pies have been bringing as a game style. So yeah, I'll go Pies.
Yep, I don't think I said my tip, but I'll tip the Pies as well.
Are we all Melbourne Pies? How boring.
Yeah, the favourites. Look at us.
Yeah.
It's hard to justify tipping Brisbane given what happened in round 23.
Yeah,
and that was away for Melbourne.
Yeah, the Pies Freo, I guess you could go.
I give Freo a big chance though, for sure.
Yeah,
they got a little bit of dark horse about them. I think Sydney had a lot of dark horse about them, but now they're above that now. But Freo on the day, they beat some pretty good teams throughout the year. So I'm probably more looking forward to this game than the other game. So Freo got a bit of dog in them. I like them. But,
well, I mean,
Pies.
Freo and Pies, like it's all the new faces. So it's definitely the game I'm more interested in as well. Like Pies, how Pies been playing been good to watch, which is like not exactly a hot take, but it's true. And then both of them do have like younger players, younger cores, new coaches. Like it's just a little bit more interesting than the Melbourne kind of Brisbane thing, which we've seen play out over the last couple of years already. I do think there is like you can have teams bounce back from those gigantic losses where they get absolutely spanked by the side, and you could have Melbourne kind of rest on their laurels a little bit. Although I think just having come off a loss and now being in the spot where every game's an elimination game, I don't think it's going to be the case for the D's. But I could make arguments for both Brisbane and Freo, but I think there's probably a reason why Melbourne and Collingwood are the favourites in this one, if that's right. And they just on paper just seem like they should have the advantage.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty clear favourites, like $1.40 each or something like that.
I think we can wrap it up there. So, yeah, just the two games this week, Friday and Saturday. So pretty exciting. Anything else to add? Who do we want to win the flag?
Who do we want?
Sydney Train's gaining a bit of traction, isn't it?
I just want to see Isaac take some hanging out for it.
Of the teams that are left, like I'd like to see Freo win a flag. They've never won one, so yeah, I'd like to see them win it.
As selfish Melburnians, well, Vic-based teams, we probably just want an interstate team to win it, so we don't have to hear about it. Is that right, JD?
Well, I live interstate anyway, so
true.
I don't have to hear about it regardless. All I have to hear about no matter what is it's been 18 years since you won a final. That's why it's retro merch. Take me back to the 90s. Back to like Lloyd and Hurd. Lucas. Oh, boys. Yeah. None of this 2020s. Like, yeah.
George Crom VFL. They're gonna. Oh, Sanford. They're gonna win.
They lost today.
Oh shit.
But they got another week. Dare I say I didn't watch. I did watch last week, but I just checked. How did Maxey go? Not great.
Yep.
How did Pedler get injured? No, he made it through, so that's good. Braden Cook's not going too well, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I think that's enough for Crom belongs nowhere near this podcast. So I think we'll leave it at that. So thanks again, boys, and we'll see you guys next week.